It's a lot of people. The average adult smiles between 20 and 40 times per day. Maybe you're smiling right now as I'm talking. Our smiles come in many different shapes and forms. There's the polite smile, as you meet someone for the first time. The goofy smile you make to have a small child laugh. The artificial smile you plaster on to say cheese in front of the camera. And the unfiltered, unashamed smile, as you laugh so hard you cry. But there's another type of smile that we all have. Though we may not like to admit it, it's the make-believe smile. The one that we put on when we're trying to convince our friends and maybe even others that everything is okay, when in reality, we're broken inside. That's the thing about depression. It doesn't have an outward appearance like a physical illness does. It's easy to deny and even easier to hide behind a manufactured smile. November 24th, 2000 is the day a boy by the name of John Joseph Bollinger came into the world. That's me, John Joseph Bollinger. But I like JJ much better. I was 6 pounds, 8 ounces, with brown hair and hazel eyes. My mom tells me that since the day I left the hospital, I was always smiling. I didn't have any siblings, but we were a happy little family. Just my mom, my dad, and me. 4 years later, our happy little family got the news that no one wants to hear. My dad had been diagnosed with lung cancer. His diagnosis was followed by a blur of medication and treatments over the next 2 years. My grandmother was a nurse and often came over to help take care of him. She bought me a toy doctor set, and when she came over to help check up on him, I would pull out my plastic instruments and work alongside her. I went to preschool and lived out my days being the happy child that I was. But as soon as I got home, I would see and even hear my dad in pain. It would bring me to tears. My mom did her best to stay positive for the both of us, but I could tell he was getting weaker by the day. As a young child, death is a difficult concept to grasp. My mom and I were at the hospital the day he passed. I don't remember it happening, but I do remember following my mom through the maze of the hospital to a bench in an empty white hallway. As my mom sobbed, I climbed up next to her and gently patted her back. I didn't fully understand what was going on, but I could tell she was very sad. And in my 6-year-old way, I did my best to comfort her. Losing a parent at such a young age changes everything about your life. Without that male presence in our home, I felt a strong sense of responsibility to take care of my mom. She now had to play the role of both mom and dad. And together, we had to relearn even the simplest of tasks as we adjusted to our new reality. I didn't know how to cope with my grief, so instead, I acted out. The smile I always carried faded away, and I started getting into fights at school and getting myself into trouble. As summer break neared, my mom needed an affordable and encouraging place for me to spend my days. A close family friend told us about the Boys and Girls Club, so we decided to give it a try. My first day at the club's Neal Road site was terrifying. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was a shy little boy in an unknown environment. As I sat outside the movie room, I had no intentions in talking to anyone. Suddenly, a man approached me. Through my 6-year-old eyes, he looked as if he was 1,000 feet tall. I was afraid of him at first. I mean, who wouldn't be afraid of a giant walking around, not knowing if he would eat you or not? But as we talked, my fear began to subside. He introduced himself as Marquise, the site coordinator. "Hi, John," he said. "No, not John. My mom didn't tell him I don't like my first name." I cringed inside, but I was too afraid to correct him. That's when I heard my older cousin, a Boys and Girls Club veteran, call out, "No, it's JJ. He likes to be called JJ." Marquise turned back, and I smiled, and I nodded. He smiled and said, "JJ it is." From that moment on, Marquise made sure all the staff at the club knew my nickname. When the field trip roster said John, he'd cross it out and handwrite JJ over it. It seems like such a small thing, but to me, it meant the world. Over time, Marquise became a father figure to me. He taught me new things and helped me curb my aggression, and also helped me find more positive outlets to express my emotions. I was especially drawn to Marquise because I saw something in him that I used to have: happiness no matter the situation. He always had a smile on his face, just like I used to. And over time, he helped me find my smile again. In everything I did, I wanted to follow in Marquise's footsteps and make him proud. I led service projects in Torch Club, got my homework done during Power Hour, and found more positive male influences through Passport to Manhood, which taught me how to grow into a respectful and responsible young man. At the club, I also discovered my love for helping others. This led me to join the Boy Scouts in 5th grade, which gave me another opportunity to be a part of my community. As I started middle school, I got the chance to really exercise my leadership skills when I became a leader in training at the Boys and Girls Club. This was my chance to bring joy to those around me and share my smile with those who needed it. I wanted to be a positive role model, someone that the kids could look up to, just as I did with Marquise. Throughout middle school, I was at the club every day and loving every single minute of it. When high school started, however, things began to change. I had a hard time finding the level of support I had in middle school, and very quickly began falling behind in my classes. As my grades slipped, I began hearing messages that if I didn't turn things around, I wouldn't have a good job and wouldn't amount to anything in life. Unfortunately, I started believing in those voices. I stopped trying and ended my freshman year with just 2 credits. The defeating voices in my head were relentless. I was convinced that I was worthless and that I had no future. I stopped attending the Boys and Girls Club and Boy Scouts. I didn't want to leave the house and stopped caring about the things that used to matter to me. I had dealt with sadness and grief before, but this was different. I couldn't shake it or make it disappear with a smile. Finally, a therapist helped my mom and I put a name to what was happening. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. Depression is often misunderstood and can come in a negative stigma, especially for boys. Those suffering from it are often told to just get over it. Life isn't that bad. All you have to do is smile and be happy. I wish it was that easy, but clinical depression is an ongoing mental battle. My mom and I began attending counseling together. I transferred to Worcester High School my sophomore year and was able to find the help I needed to start catching up. I began attending Boy Scout meetings again and resumed my role as a leader in training, and even earned a paid junior staff position at the Boys and Girls Club the following summer. The depression was still there, but I was cautiously optimistic. My grades improved, and I was gaining my confidence back. I smiled as often as I could, sometimes manufactured, and sometimes for real. I did my best to make those around me happy, because when they were happy, I was happy. But it wasn't long before depression would rear its ugly head again. The summer before my junior year, I was in a relationship that wasn't going so well, and I had plans to break it off. When my then girlfriend caught wind of my intentions, she became very upset. She cried and yelled and told me that she would kill herself if I broke up with her. Her reaction hit me hard. I felt guilty and refused to allow myself to be responsible if she carried out with her threats. I didn't break up with her at that point. Instead, I didn't tell anyone what she said, and pretended like everything was okay. The next week, I packed my bags for the Boy Scouts annual jamboree. My mom had saved for months to send me to this 2-week experience in North Carolina, and I was looking forward to the break of everyday life. Unfortunately, that break didn't come. I tried to enjoy my days at camp, but my girlfriend continued to text me. With each passing day, I could sense my depression returning, and eventually, it felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. Every buzz of my phone was another reminder that my girlfriend's life was in my hands, or so she said. The memories returned of my dad's death and the void he left in my life. The voices from my freshman year haunted me again, telling me I was worthless and that I wouldn't amount to anything. I felt like there was a giant shadow cast over me. The pressure was growing, my support system was on the other side of the country, and ultimately, it became more than I could bear. As the rest of the group went on a rafting trip one morning, I was left alone at camp. In that moment, there seemed to be only one solution to escape this shadow once and for all. I'll just give up. I laid in my sweltering tent, wrapped in a sleeping bag, as the temperatures outside continued to rise. Eventually, I lost consciousness. The next thing I remember was a paramedic using a pressure point to jolt me awake. They rehydrated me, notified my mom, and made sure I had someone by my side of every minute of every day for the rest of camp. I continued to struggle for months when I got home, even turning to drugs and alcohol for a time, hoping that it would somehow take the pain away. I suffered in silence. My mom, the staff at the club, not even my best friends knew the depths of my struggles. In these darkest days, however, I saw glimmers of hope as I slowly began to realize just how many people actually cared about me. Of course, my mom has been by my side every step of the way. We have been through so much together, and even at my lowest points, she refuses to give up on me. She is my biggest reason for success, and I cannot express how grateful I am to have her as my mom. My Boys and Girls Club family was there for me as well. Turns out, my mom listed a club staff member, Tatiana Anderson Hall, as my secondary emergency contact for camp. When they couldn't reach my mom right away, it was Tatiana who got the news of my suicide attempt first. The day I returned to the club, she greeted me with a huge hug. And the days that followed, she checked in with me almost daily. Coworkers like Gladys, Jared, Doris, and Kendra also gave me hugs when I saw them. They told me how glad they were that I was okay, and they offered a shoulder to cry on and an ear to listen. I knew I could be open and real with them, and never have the fear of being judged. They were the people I could talk to when I felt like no one else would listen. But to be honest, it was the kids at the club who had the greatest impact on me. Ironic, right? I was supposed to be their leader and inspiration, but they turned out to be mine. They showed me that I didn't need to manufacture a smile to be happy. True happiness is actually on the inside. The members at my Neal Road site deal with unimaginable things at home. But when they get to the club, they're living their best lives in the moment without a care in the world. Honestly, I think we can all learn a thing or two from the kids in our lives. The Boys and Girls Club is a place that grows up with you. As a child, the club helped me heal from my dad's death, break out of my shell, and develop a love for helping others. As a teen, My club family sat in the trenches of depression with me and helped me find the strength to continue. It's been more than a year since I hit my lowest point, and I am happy to say that life has never been better. It took a lot of time and hard work, but I've caught up on my credits, and I will graduate with my class this spring. After my years in Boy Scouts, I am now a candidate for Eagle Scout. Next year, I'll start college at TMCC and plan to eventually transfer to UNR. I still love helping people, and I want to pursue a career where I can do just that, maybe as a nurse or a social worker. I'm not sure that I'll ever be cured from depression. I don't think it works that way. To be honest, I still have bad days that I try to smile through. But more and more, I don't need to make believe that smile anymore, because the genuine ones come more easily. I stand here today as a survivor and an advocate for those who struggle like I did. If you can relate to my story, I want to tell you that there is hope, that you are more loved than you realize, that there is no shame in seeking help, and that with the right support around you, your joy can and will return, along with a smile that's brighter than ever.